I left for a long weekend, came home to tourists in my bed. My roommate said it was a misunderstanding, then doubled down at 2 in the morning with new guests. The landlord claimed ignorance until I found his fingerprints all over a short-term rental ring in the building. Now I'm female 28, live in a 2-bedroom apartment in a mid-rise that pretends it's luxury because the elevator speaks. My roommate, Cal, male 30, moved in 8 months ago after my previous roommate, Talia, left to chase love and improv in Chicago. The lease is in my name, with an addendum listing Cal as an approved occupant. There is a very clear no sublet clause. I know because my landlord, Mr. Harmon, circled it with a red pen like a middle school teacher grading sins. And Cal's a friend of a friend situation. Graphic design, mostly gig work, sometimes quiet, sometimes Sunday brunch loud. He labels his oat milk like it's a museum piece, do not drink. He responds to messages with voice notes that start with, "Okay, so here's my truth. Our coexistence was fine until the Friday of the incident, and I was headed to my cousin's lakeside birthday, a long weekend out of town. Pepper, the dog I co-share with my ex, was with my ex that week. I cleaned my room, stripped the sheets, habit, pulled my bedroom door closed, out of respect for future me, tossed Cal a see you Monday and left. And Friday night I posted a photo of a red sunset and a plastic cup pretending to be a cocktail. It was pink lemonade with ambition. I put my phone face down. Civilization could handle itself for a day. Saturday morning, I got a Venmo request from Cal, $18.75 for paper towels and vibe candles. I laughed and paid, because no one wants an unvibed apartment. Saturday afternoon was kayaks. Saturday night was cold pasta and a mosquito that loved me specifically. Sunday morning, as we packed up, I got a text from Mrs. NG, the neighbor across our hall. New friends? Very polite, lots of luggage. And I sent back a question mark. She replied, "They say they're here for 3 nights. Thought you had company." And I called Cal. He didn't answer. Then he sent a voice note that started with, "Okay, so here's my truth." His truth was a lie dressed like a spreadsheet. His cousin from Denmark needed a place to crash for a night or two. Totally last minute, he forgot to ask me because you seemed off the grid. He would handle everything and they were sleeping on the couch. And I said, "Please, no guests in my room." He said, "Of course not. Couch is totally fine." I felt the little itch that means I'm ignoring my instincts. I told myself to relax. And I drove back Monday around noon, sunburned and smelling like potato chips. The elevator told me, "Good afternoon," in a voice that wants a raise. I unlocked the door and said my "I'm home hey" to the apartment. 2 strangers turned around in my bedroom doorway. One had a camera strap, the other wore socks with little whales. They blinked. I blinked. The one with whales said hi in a voice that doesn't know it's in the wrong story. Behind them, my bed was made with my spare sheets, the citrus pattern I hate but keep for emergencies. And my toothbrush was upside down in a mason jar on my dresser, like it had been put there by someone performing what a person might do in a bedroom. "Sorry," Whale Sock said, cheerful like a front desk clerk. "We thought you'd be at work. We have the place until Wednesday." The camera one, later introduced as Mateo, added quickly, "We paid the cleaning fee." And I walked into my room, past them, and saw a small stack of hotel soaps on my nightstand like a parody, and a folded note. "Welcome. Please remove shoes. No parties. I will be available by message 24/7. ~C. There was also a small laminated card with a QR code that said, Wi-Fi, Moonglow, password, Oatmilk 2024, and I called Cal and HE, answered on the second ring. "Hey, you're back early. Did you see the note? They're super chill and..." "Get home," I said. "Now." He tried his favorite tactic, volatility measured in syllables. Breathe. Just breathe. There's a misunderstanding. Get home. He arrived 40 minutes later with a houseplant and a performance. "Oh my God, you're going to laugh," he began, which is not how laughs begin. This is not Airbnb. It's like a friend of a friend thing, and "N.A. whale-socked foot" was in my peripheral vision. I pointed at my bed. "Explain my sheets."
Update 5.
Carried the plant to the kitchen. touched every surface like he needed fingerprints everywhere. They were tired. The couch, it's not. Supportive.
Update 5.
Did you rent my bedroom? He landed on a lawyerly sentence. I permitted them to use the private accommodation in exchange for a rate that offsets costs which we share. That's Airbnb with extra adjectives. Mateo asked from the hallway, "Are we in trouble?" "You're not," I told him. "Please pack your things. There's been a mistake." And Whale Socks closed the door and whispered in Spanish. I waited for Cal to say the one sentence that would make this survivable. "I'm sorry, I messed up, and I will fix it." He didn't. He tried to sell me the idea that my room is communal space anyway, vibe-wise. He said he'd changed the sheets, sanitary, and placed the hotel soaps, ambiance, and provided a local guide he found on a blog, hospitality. I said, "Calm the way a pond is calm," right before a crocodile writes a dissertation. "You violated the lease, you violated my boundaries, you rented my bed." He went for the heartstring he believed he'd installed. I'm behind on a couple bills. This was going to help. Nobody gets hurt. I'm hurt. He looked small for 1 second, then reshaped himself into defensiveness. "You weren't even here, and now I am."
Librarian
Stood like chess pieces that hated being wood. He said he'd refund the guests from his rate, which made me want to Google strangling someone with a macrame plant hanger. I did not. This is a metaphor. I told him to message them and end it. He said, okay. And while they packed, I took photos. My room, the note, the QR code, the hotel soaps, the lock on my door, which was the same generic push-button knob the apartment came with. No key, no privacy. I messaged Mrs. NG to explain. I apologized to her for the noise she didn't complain about. She sent back, "I thought you knew. Very handsome couple. Very polite." Bless her for always finding the adjective. Mateo and Whale Socks came into the living room with their luggage and a guilt I couldn't accept. "We're so sorry," Mateo said. "We didn't realize the host wasn't you." And I softened. "It's not on you. Please ask for a full refund. If he doesn't, I can help you dispute it with the platform." They exchanged a look. "It wasn't like the platform," Whale Socks said. "He posted in a travel group and sent us a payment link. An OF course he did." And after they left, silence made everything louder. Cal started wiping invisible crumbs. "See? Crisis managed." "No," I said. "Crisis identified. The management is next." Try to charm the future into caring less. He told me he'd taken one booking, and it wouldn't happen again. Pinky promise. Scout's honor. Choose your magical thinking. I said I'd need him to put that in writing, and also to pay me for breach of quiet enjoyment. My favorite lease phrase. It sounds like a jazz album. And an emergency cleaning because my personal space felt like it had been worn by a stranger. His credit, he opened his phone and Venmo'd me $200 with the memo, "Cleaning piece." It felt like hush money for a problem that had just found its running shoes. Night I washed everything. Sheets, pillowcases, the duvet cover that requires upper body strength and an incantation. I put my toothbrush in the trash because I couldn't unsee a stranger's camera strap next to it. I slept with my door pushed shut and a chair under the knob like an old movie. I told myself I'd talk to Mr. Harmon in the morning. At 2:07 in the morning, someone tried to unlock our front door.
The committee stared.
That adrenaline is how it turns time into math you don't know how to do. I was up, barefoot, in the hallway with my phone in my hand before the second rattle. The deadbolt held. A voice on the other side said, "Hello? Is this the Moonglow?" Another voice giggled. A suitcase zipper laughed. Door code keypad. Our door does not have a keypad. But my phone blinked with a push notification from our very smart, very annoying building app. Guest code created by Harmon Properties. 2:06 in the morning, and I looked at Cal's door. He opened it, hair wild, like he'd invented surprise. "It's not what it looks like," he whispered, "which is always what it looks like. It looks like you posted the listing again." "And I didn't," he said, hands out like a yoga instructor about to teach you how to lie politely. I swear. And on the other side of the door, a new voice chimed in. We saw the instructions said, use the side elevator, but we didn't find it. And I dialed non-emergency police and spoke with a calm I wish belonged to me. Hi, I have strangers trying to enter my apartment at 2 a.m. I believe my roommate is illegally subletting. The lease forbids it. I am unsafe.
Update 5.
Hissed. Don't do this. Which told me we were exactly where we needed to be. Leave, I shouted through the door, because if you're going to do theater, give it a line. This booking is not authorized. You need to go. The voices retreated like a clock turning back 1 second at a time. I stayed on the line with dispatch. They sent a car. Cal paced. I screenshot the guest code notification 3 times like it might disappear. When the officers arrived, they were respectful and a little sleepy. I showed them the lease clause. They asked Cal if he'd invited the guests. He said no, and then yes, and then, it's complicated. The officer said, it doesn't need to be complicated. If the lease forbids it, you can't do it. And at 2 a.m, absolutely not.
Update 5.
Said it was a miscommunication with the host. I said, you're the host. He said, I'm not the only host. The officer took notes, asked if I felt safe. I did, I said, and then tonight happened. They offered to talk to the would-be guests in the lobby. They did. The guests were more confused than angry. They'd been sent a PDF of house rules. It had my living room on it, and a temporary entrance code generated by Harmon Properties, not by us. The officers told them to contact their platform. This time it was a platform, and get a refund. The officers asked if I wanted to file an incident report. I did. Cal said I was escalating, and that we should hold space for Grace. The officer said, kindly, Sir, she's allowed to document. When the door closed, 2:40 in the morning smelled like bleach and promises. I didn't sleep. At 8:01 in the morning, I sat in the building office with my folder of screenshots and Mr. Harmon in front of me. He is a man who irons his eyebrows. He smiled like a dentist. How can we support you? And I laid out the evidence. The guests, the note, the hotel soaps. I brought one like it was Exhibit B. The guest code notification from their own app at 2:06 in the morning, the clause. I said my roommate had admitted to booking at least once, and that last night someone created a guest code through their system. Who did that? I asked, if not you. Harmon's smile receded like a tide. He said it must have been an automated test of their app. I said their app had never generated a guest code at 2 in the morning in 8 months before this. He said sometimes the concierge sends codes. We do not have a concierge. He landed on a tone I recognize from men who are about to say nothing. I'll look into it. Please also look into the lease clause that forbids short-term rental, I said, polite as a scalpel. Promised a warning letter to Cal and asked me to be patient while we addressed the bug. And I went back upstairs, sat on my unslept bed, and stared at the QR code card on my dresser. Cal had laminated it. No one laminates by accident. And I flipped the card. There, in small type at the bottom, it said, @moonglowstays.ni opened Instagram. There it was. A profile with 12 posts, tasteful photos of my kitchen, my living room, other apartments with the same gray couch and the same plant, and a caption template that said, light-filled haven in the heart of the city, self-check-in, fast Wi-Fi, quiet building. Each post tagged Harmon Properties and a handful of travel hashtags. The bio said, boutique furnished stays by locals. DMs open. My stomach flipped. This wasn't Cal as a lone grifter. This was a brand. And I scrolled to a reel. There's our hallway. There's Mrs. Ng's welcome mat. There's a quick cut to the elevator, then to a door with my apartment number blurred, then text, code sent day of arrival, and I took screenshots until my phone felt heavier. Then I messaged Talia, my old roommate, and asked whether she ever saw Moonglow back when she lived here. She sent back, wait, that Moonglow? I booked it once before I moved in, with my date, and we had to cancel because the host got weird about the time. I asked if the photos looked familiar. She recognized our kitchen tile. She sent a voice note. "Girl, that's your spoon rack." And I called Harmon again. No answer. I sent the screenshots with a subject line that said, "Formal notice of illegal short-term rental activity." I carbon copied the building's generic email and, for flavor, my folder titled Evidence. At noon, Harmon slid a piece of paper under my door like a child playing mailman. Notice of lease violation, addressed to Cal for unauthorized guests and noise complaint. It did not mention short-term rental or guest code generation or Instagram tourism. It felt like a Band-Aid on a house fire. And I knocked on Cal's door. He opened it an inch. "I need space," he said, small. "So do I," I said. "Specifically, the space inside my room that will never again host strangers." "I'm putting a real lock on my door today. You can't change locks," he said, reciting the lease with the confidence of someone who had never read it. "I can put a bedroom lock that doesn't affect the unit locks," I said. And I am. After what happened at 2 a.m, safety beats aesthetics. Sighed a sigh that had been to acting school. "I wish you trusted me." "I did," I said. "That's how we got here." And I went to the hardware store and bought a keyed bedroom knob, a strike plate, and self-awareness. I texted Harmon, "For safety, replacing interior knob on my room. Unit entry locks remain unchanged." He did not reply. I installed the lock with a tutorial and a drill that sounded like Resolve.
The librarian.
I slept. At 6 a.m, Mrs. NG slid a yellow sticky under my door. Saw a couple with roller bags knock on 5B. They were told to meet, host, by the ice machine. We do not have one. They looked confused. And I started a spreadsheet labeled Moonglow Sightings. At 9 a.m, a direct message hit my Instagram from @MoonglowStays. "Hey, saw you viewed our content. If you're interested in free stays in exchange for promo." It trailed off into hashtags. I replied, "Hi, I live in one of the units you're advertising. This is illegal, per our lease and, likely, city code. Remove content immediately, or I will report the account and file with the city." They sent a heart reaction. Then nothing. At 11 a.m, an email from Harmon finally arrived. "We have removed any automated guest codes and are working with our occupants to ensure compliance. Please avoid social media conflict. We prefer to handle internally." And I wrote back, "I prefer to handle legal matters legally." Afternoon, I printed the city's short-term rental rules. I highlighted the part that says, "No short-term rental, less than 30 days in buildings, without specific licensing," and "No short-term rental, where lease forbids subletting." I put the packet next to my kettle, like it was tea I might drink later. At 5 p.m, someone knocked. I opened to a delivery, a box of hotel soaps.
The faculty rep.
And I called Talia again. "You want to hear something wild?" she said. "The guy who gave me the Moonglow cancel message months ago signed it, Harmon."
The professor finally spoke.
A day later, I meet the guests at 2 a.m, again, because fate has a script and loves repeats. The next night, at 2:13 a.m, there was another knock. Not at my door. Down the hall, I peeked out. A couple stood at 5B holding a printout with my hallway on it. The caption, "Follow the star stickers to your suite." There were star stickers on the floor. Fresh. Childish. Infuriating. And I texted Mrs. NG, "You see this?" She texted back, "On my welcome mat," and I called the non-emergency line again and explained that our building was being treated like a hotel. The responding officer was the same from the night before. He looked at the couple's PDF. Same Wi-Fi name. Same rules. Different suite name. Moonglow Annex.
The committee's
Officer asked who gave them the code for 5B. They said there had been no code. Just instructions to meet the host by the ice machine, which continued not to exist. I realized The host was using manual meetups now that the automated codes had gone dark. Old school crime meets new school thirst traps. NWE walked to the lobby. No host. The couple waited 10 minutes, then 20. At 30, the officer suggested they book a hotel. The woman looked at the man and whispered, "We can't afford that tonight." My stomach did that flip again. The one that means I'm angry at the system and the liar at the same time. And I asked the couple how they found Moonglow. Instagram, they said, and a link in bio to a private booking site with discounts.
The committee
Officer took their info and gave them the general advice of the internet. Screenshots, chargeback, report. We all went back upstairs, like actors who know they have 2 more scenes.
The committee's
Next morning, there was an envelope under 5B's door that said Utilities in Harmon's handwriting. I took a photo. My Moonglow sighting spreadsheet got a new row. My rage got a new hobby. And I called 311, our city's line, for everything. I reported suspected illegal short-term rental activity at my address. They gave me a case number and an expectation, 2 to 10 business days. I added that to the spreadsheet too. At noon, Harmon knocked. He had a clipboard and a tone. "Let's reset," he said. "We're aligned in wanting a safe, quiet building, and then stop running a hotel." NHE laughed like I told a joke that needed better pacing. "We don't do short-term rentals." And I pulled out my phone like a magician producing a dove. "Then why is at Moonglow Stays tagging Harmon properties? Why did your system create a guest code at 2:06 in the morning? Why are there star stickers pointing to 5B? Did the thing where a person's mouth smiles and their eyes go dark. We outsource social media. You're connecting dots in a way that could be seen as defamatory." "Great word," I said. "Here's another. Retaliation. The lease forbids retaliatory action if a tenant reports a violation. Consider this my formal notice. I have reported the activity to the city and will continue documenting. I also request a lock change on the unit because guest codes were generated without my consent. We can't change locks without owner approval," he said, as if he did not know the owner's name is also Harmon. "Then approve it." Promise to circle back. Business for no. He left. I sat with my anger like it was important. Mail. At 4 in the evening, Cal knocked like he was rehearsing. He had cookies. Store-bought. He held the box like a shield. "I'm sorry," he started. I panicked. Money's tight. I thought if I handled cleaning and screening and all the logistics. "You rented strangers into my bed." Nodded. "I know, and I had the police in our apartment at 2 in the morning. And I believe Harmon is part of something he's going to pretend is a misunderstanding until the city knocks."
How do you prove a negative?
Stared at the cookies and said, "Very small." I got in over my head. And then get out of it. Exhaled. "I'll find a new place." 30 days? And I wanted to say now. The lease says 30 days for occupant changes. And my therapist, hi Dr. C, says boundaries mean you leave room for the world to function. 30 days, I said. No guests. No side hustles. No laminate. Nodded. Okay. And I took a cookie. It tasted like apology. Too sweet, easily stale.
That night I went full detective.
A week later, the rabbit hole, platforms, listings, and a host that isn't one, my Moonglow side spreadsheet became a map. Every night for a week, I saw at least one set of roller bags in my hallway, on different floors, lingering like tourists at a museum of bad ideas. The host had switched to manual meetups and Cash App links. I collected usernames, dates, and screenshots of house rules PDFs that had my hand towel in the photo. I found the booking site linked in Moonglow's Instagram bio, a minimalist template hosted on a cheap platform with squares that said City Loft, Artist Nook, Sunset Suite. Each listing had blurred door numbers and a check-in window of 2 to 3 in the morning. Subtle. The terms page was a copy-paste from Airbnb, with Airbnb replaced by Moonglow. The refund policy was no refunds for early departure, excessive noise complaints, or management error. Management error? I loved the honesty dressed as boldness. There was a contact page with email ask@moonglowstays.com. I sent an email. This is a cease and desist regarding unit photos taken without permission and unlawful advertising. Remove all content associated with my address within 24 hours. Auto reply, thanks for reaching out. We're locals sharing our city with travelers. And I filed formal reports with Instagram and the web host. I attached the lease clause, the city code, the case number. I carbon copied Harmon again, because at this point carbon copy stood for collecting consequences. Meanwhile, Cal was better. He stopped speaking in truth monologues and started doing dishes. He canceled his one last booking, yes he tried, after I threatened to put his box of laminated QR cards in the trash chute. He taped a note to our door that said, "No guests, no tours, no deliveries," like a haunted house rules sign. On day 6, the city called. An inspector named Diaz asked for details. I gave him the saga. He made an appointment to visit the building. I put a gold star sticker on my spreadsheet in honor of irony. Diaz came 2 days later. He had a clipboard, a camera, and the energy of a man who knows exactly how many illegal couches he's seen. He asked to see the guest code notification. I showed him my screenshots. He took photos of the star stickers on the 5B floor in the Moonglow Instagram. He knocked on 5B. No answer. He knocked on 5D. A man in a bathrobe opened and said, "Are you here to drop off the extra towels?" Diaz looked at me. I looked at Diaz. He said politely to the bathrobe, "No, sir." "Who's your host?" The man pointed downward with his thumb. "Harm, something." Diaz wrote faster.
The library.
To the office. Harmon smiled with only his upper teeth. Diaz introduced himself and requested occupancy records for the last 30 days. Harmon said, "We don't keep individual logs like that." Diaz pointed at the tablet on Harmon's desk and said, "Your system does. Please export guest code activity." Harmon said there must be a mix-up. Diaz said the city would return with a warrant if necessary. Harmon decided to be helpful. They printed a log. It showed 53 temporary codes created in 3 weeks, many between 1 in the morning and 3 in the morning. Diaz asked who authorized the codes. Harmon said this was an experimental concierge feature. Diaz asked for the concierge's name. Harmon said, "Harmon Properties Concierge." Diaz stared at him, the way ocean stares at sandcastles. Diaz cited the code. No short-term stays under 30 days without license. No short-term rental in buildings that forbid subletting in their leases. Fines per incident. Potential cease and desist for the entire property. He gave Harmon a notice that looked like a parking ticket's older, scarier sibling. "I wanted to sing Nasty as left," he said to me quietly. "Document, but be careful. People get weird when money is about to evaporate."
The library.
The Moonglow Instagram went private. The booking site disappeared into a maintenance page. But roller bags still rolled. The ring doesn't die just because the flyer goes offline.
Submitted.
Nights later, I heard keys at 2:22 in the morning, not at our door, at 5B. A woman's voice. "Are you sure this is it?" A man's reply. The host said we'd get a text with a code, but the building changed the system. He'll come up. And I texted Diaz the update. He replied at 2:25 in the morning with, "On it." Patrol notified. 10 minutes later, I watched through my peephole as a man in a black baseball cap took the couple to 5B, jimmied the door with a flat key card, and let them in. He looked like any gym guy. He looked like a host, and I snapped photos of his face when he turned. It was Harmon's nephew, Chase, who sometimes helps with maintenance. He once replaced our smoke detector and asked if my plants were edibles. He called everything sick. He had a tattoo of a clock with no hands. When the patrol officer came up, the door was closed. I showed him the photos. He sighed. "It's like playing whack-a-mole." He knocked. No answer. He said they'd write this visit into the case and told me to follow up with Diaz in the morning. I went back inside, locked my bedroom lock, and listened to the soft hum of a building pretending to be a hotel, and promised myself it wouldn't be for long, and I woke up with a list. It looked like this N1. Compile everything into a single doc. Timeline. screenshots, code logs, photos, emails, incident numbers. 2. Email Harmon a formal cure or quit notice regarding Cal's behavior, as allowed by the lease, and a separate notice regarding the property's unlawful short-term rental activity. 3. Consult a tenant's clinic for language that doesn't sound like rage in a trench coat. 4. Knock on 5 doors I'd been too shy to knock before.
The committee went into private.
I had a PDF titled moonglow_dossier_v1.pdf. It had a cover page like a true crime podcast. I did not apologize, and I visited Mrs. NG first. She offered tea and a low voice. Lots of suitcases, she said, especially on weekends. They're polite, but it's not a hotel. The fire alarm went off once at 3 a.m. because they were cooking with the door open. She signed a short statement I drafted that said, I have observed repeated short-term rental activity inconsistent with my lease. She underlined inconsistent twice. Next, 5D bathrobe. He put on sweats and said, Look, I thought it was weird, but the price was good. We're in town for a convention. I explained I wasn't a cop. I was a tenant trying to sleep. He apologized and said the host told him last night that the neighbor would calm down. I smiled with my lawyer mouth and said, the neighbor won't. He actually blushed. He gave me his booking confirmation, Chase's Venmo handle all over it, and said he'd ask for a refund. And 4C wasn't home. 6A opened slowly, saw my face, and said, finally. She'd reported noise 3 times on the app. No response. She emailed me her receipts. Her dog hates suitcases. I understand her dog. With consent, I included their statements. I sent dossier V1 to Diaz, carbon copy Harmon, and Harmon's generic email again for sport. I also carbon copied a tenant's advocacy org, whose email footer has teeth. Nat 4 in the evening, Harmon replied with a 2-paragraph masterpiece of corporate Teflon. We take these concerns seriously. We are unaware of any sanctioned short-term rental activity. Any incidents are isolated and will be addressed. We ask tenants to refrain from interfering with other residents, and I wrote back, respectfully, stop calling your guests residents. Diaz replied to me and Harmon together. Given the volume of evidence, the department is issuing a temporary cease and desist for short-term rentals at this property pending investigation. Compliance will be verified. Failure to comply may result in fines per incident. Shortly after, a building-wide notification landed in our inboxes. Effective immediately, no guest codes will be created. All visitors must be escorted by leaseholders. This is due to an app update. Translation: we got caught.
The librarian.
The building was quiet. Ms. NG slept early. My hallway sighed. The elevator sulked.
The sanction.
With cardboard boxes. He had the look of someone who finally believes gravity. I found a sublet, he said, month to month. No questions asked. Check their lease, I said before I could stop my mouth. Then I softened. I want you to be okay, but I also want you to understand that what you did is not a small thing. He swallowed. I do. Handed me a sealed envelope. I wrote something. No pressure to read. After he shut his door, I opened it. Inside was a letter with an apology that didn't sound focus grouped. He explained the friend of a friend who tempted him into hosting. He admitted he'd been approached by Chase in the lobby 2 months ago with a pitch. You live there already, why not make rent pay for itself? He admitted he got a cut when Chase filled other units. He also included screenshots of texts with Chase and Chase. Don't worry about the lease. Harmon is cool. Just don't say Airbnb.
It's the cheat sites.
What if my roommate comes back early? Chase. Then say it's your cousin. People don't verify cousins. And I added those to dossier V2 and sent an update to Diaz. I carbon copied Harmon because at this point he and I were pen pals who hated it. 3 days later, Diaz returned with a colleague and a printer that spits out citations. They posted a notice in the lobby. Cease all short-term rentals. Violations subject to penalties. They asked me if I'd be willing to testify to my observations if necessary. I said yes, and also that I'd be willing to testify about how ugly our lobby art is.
The
Evening. Moonglow resurfaced online with a new bio. We are a design collective and do not offer lodging. The grid remained. My spoon rack, my hand towel, that same gray couch. Their stories were a montage of old clips with throwback stickers. It was like watching someone try to pretend the lemonade stand was a gallery. And I reported the account again. It went private, then public, then private. Like guilt. Within a week, I noticed fewer roller bags and more men in polo shirts whispering near thermostats. Maintenance had returned from the war. Chase came by our floor, rolling a cart of linens. I stepped into the hall. He froze.
He suggested
I said pleasantly, because sugar brings flies. Lose your ice machine?
The
smirked, then did the thing where you step closer to a woman because intimidation is a language some men think makes them citizens. You're making a scene out of nothing, he said. People just want somewhere to stay. They can stay in a hotel, I said. Your uncle owns one. Blinked. He did not know I knew that, Diaz told me. Harmon owns a budget hotel, 2 neighborhoods over. Moonglow was eating his own lunch and reselling it in my hallway. Chase wheeled his linens away. I took another photo for dossier version 3. Chase plus linens 4:19 in the evening. The next morning, a notice of lease termination slid under my door, and I read it twice, then out loud to Pepper on FaceTime. It cited, quote, interference with management operations, harassment of staff, and creating a hostile environment. I felt panic and anger and then something crisp. Retaliation. I called Diaz. He said the notice smelled like retaliation too. I emailed it to the tenants, org. They replied with 3 sample letters and a statute that forbids retaliation within 6 months of a tenant reporting a violation. I wrote Harmon a reply quoting the statute, attached the case number, and carbon copied the org and Diaz. I ended with, any further attempt at termination will be documented as retaliatory. And then I printed 30 copies of the city's cease and desist and taped them to the elevator walls, the mailbox nook, the bulletin board that usually advertises babysitters and French bulldogs. NTHE building was quiet again. The quiet that knows it's being watched. 2 days later, by the end of the month, Cal moved out. We did a last walkthrough. He hugged me. Brief, awkward, full of a desire to be the person he thinks he almost was. Thank you for not ruining me, he said. No, I didn't ruin you, I said. I stopped you. He nodded. Truthenda replaced his name on the mailbox with a small drawing of a star. Mrs. NG left me a note. Quieter. Thank you.
the librarian.
I slept like a person in a home, not a lobby. 2 weeks after Cal left, I got a call from a number that looked like a spammer with a suit. It was Harmon's lawyer. Well, a man who said he spoke on behalf of the property. He used words like misapprehension and amicable. He asked if I'd consider signing a mutual non-disparagement and accepting a lease transfer to a comparable unit at their sister property. Red, the budget hotel with stoves that fear fire. I said I would consider a rent abatement for the weeks my apartment was effectively a lobby, a written commitment that short-term rentals were done, and a lock change on the main unit door, with new keys not on any concierge system. He said he'd take that back. I wrote a summary by email. Carbon copy Diaz. Carbon copy my new friend at the Tenants org. And in the meantime, I had an idea that felt like revenge but was really just math. I tallied the costs. Emergency cleaning, extra utilities from other people showering in my water, the ruined toothbrush, the 2 nights of sleep lost, the police incident time, the ad hoc private security work I apparently did for the building. I put a number on it. I filed a small claims case against Cal, not for moral damages, but for breach of our shared occupancy rules and the specific costs he admitted to creating. Before you judge me, I wasn't trying to bankrupt him. I wanted a record. a paper that said this happened and it cost something. And Cal didn't fight it. He showed up in a clean shirt and said the sentence I'd wanted months earlier. "I'm sorry. I messed up. I will fix it." The judge awarded me half what I asked, reasonable, told Cal to pay in installments, and looked at both of us like we were children at a pool who finally read the sign that says no running. Meanwhile, Diaz's case was moving. Harmon received fines for each documented incident and a warning that future violations could trigger a hearing to suspend their rental license. Different from short-term rental license, the city is creative when it wants to be. The building sent a mass email. In response to community feedback and guidance from the city, we have ended our concierge guest access pilot program. Someone added a smiley face. I whispered at my laptop, "Pilot this," and I finally got rent abatement. 25% off for 1 month, and a main lock change with physical keys that do not talk to an app. I also got a written note stating, "No guest codes or automated access will be created for Unitic without tenant's written authorization." It's framed on my fridge like a child's art. A week later, the Moonglow account posted a sunset and a quote about travel. Then it went private. Then it disappeared. The internet has a graveyard with no headstones, and I did something small that felt big. I took the hotel soaps and the candle and the laminated Wi-Fi card, put them in a box, and wrote, "Return to sender." I left it in the office with a note, "I prefer my home without props." Harmon did not reply. He did upgrade the lobby art from, quote, "Man falls into paint" to "Woman escapes triangle." Progress is relative. Mrs. NG brought me a plant with a bow. "For peace," she said. She lowered her voice, "and for scaring away hotels." We laughed the laugh of people whose hallways no longer host strangers at 2 a.m. I got a new roommate, Sam, female 29. A nurse who works nights and thinks laminated things are for restaurant menus. We signed a roommate agreement with actual sentences like, "No short-term guests without consent," and "text before parties," and split paper towels, and vibe candles by rotation. We installed a door viewer with an actual wide angle. We labeled nothing. We share oat milk like adults. One night, months later, I came home and the elevator said, "Good evening," in a voice that had finally given up on luxury. My hallway smelled like Mrs. NG's jasmine. I paused at my door and realized there were no suitcases. I had not heard wheels in weeks. I slept through the night without dreaming people were whispering house rules in my kitchen. NCAL sent his first installment with a message. "I'm in therapy, by the way." I heart reacted. He asked if Pepper could visit sometime. I said sure, when my ex takes him. We can meet in the park, a place designed for public things. Niaz closed the case with a final email that said, "If anything resumes, reply to this thread." I printed it and slid it into my evidence folder, behind Dossier V3. Then I put the folder on a shelf. I did not burn it. I did not frame it. I just put it away. On my kitchen counter sits a tiny star sticker I peeled off the hall weeks ago. I keep it to remind myself that sometimes the solution is not a grand plan, but a straight line. No, and then document, and then persist, and then sleep.